Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about two pieces of equipment that I think are so invaluable that I dished out and bought them for my own home gym. Now, granted, I've got a pretty big budget for home gym, and my home gym's pretty elaborate compared to, what the average person's going to have in one. But again, I feel that these two devices are worth both the floor space and the money for a home gym. So if I feel that way about them, then obviously I really think all gyms should have them. And that is the Glute-ham device and the reverse hyperextension. So these things really are phenomenal and invaluable pieces of equipment. And I would go so far as to say that if you have the choice between multiple different gyms in your area, a gym that actually has both of these devices would be the one that you should pick. In other words, if you had anything else going on there, like this to me would be to someone who says, hey, I want to get strong, be jacked, and be injury free. You need these devices. And I'm not saying you can't do that without them, but they sure do make the job easier. And you guys are going to see me discuss the reverse hyper a lot more and more. I've only done it one time on camera. I'll probably have done it more by the time this video goes live, but I've only used it on the camera one time because I'm still learning a lot about programming it, learning from people who have a lot of experience with it, who I talk to, other coaches and athletes, including some guys who have trained at Westside, who I do know. So we talk about these things, and so I'm learning more about programming it and how to use it for different roles. And I think one of the things that people need to keep in mind with the reverse hyper, it is both a therapeutic tool and a muscle and strength building tool. And you don't necessarily use it the same for each. So in my case, I'm doing it a lot heavier on my actual 2 training days where I actually train lower body, and then I use it on my off days as a restoration device. And the thing that you have to remember with the reverse hyper is that it puts your back into traction. And I can honestly say, I've joked before and said that, people talk about feeling muscles. I have never felt anything in my glutes ever in my life training. Yes, I mean deadlifting over 600 pounds, I've never felt my glutes. Squatting well over 500 pounds, I have never felt my glutes. Doing a 500-pound deep box squat, I do not feel my glutes. When I used to do the hip thrust and glute bridges, you guys have seen me do 5 sets of 10 with 505 on a glute bridge. You see me do 5 sets of 10 with 445 on a hip thrust. I don't actually feel my glutes. When I go heavy for high reps on the reverse hyper, and I'm talking anything over 300 pounds, it's the first time I have ever felt my glutes training. First time I've ever felt DOMs in my glutes, which was interesting because I've never experienced that before. But then we also have the restorative effect on the low back. Anytime you use a reverse hyper for the first time, if you use it right, one of the things you're going to notice is the feeling that it gives in the low back. The feeling that it gives in the low back, particularly if you train hard. And actually, I've seen some coaches suggest that that's a concern for them. Some of them I've actually heard say that because it makes your lower back feel so good and it removes any pain or anything that you have, that they're concerned that people will hurt themselves because they won't get pain signals in their low back the way that they should because their low back feels good. And I've actually seen coaches say that. But again, once you use one, you'll understand what I'm talking about. After you do a few sets on this, especially higher rep, like 15 to 20 rep sets, even with a fairly light weight, the first few times you do it, you're going to notice it feels like through your low back because of the traction, and it pulls on the spine at the bottom. When it pulls forward and you see it swing, it puts your spine into traction. And it feels, you have this warm tingling sensation through your entire low back that lasts for an hour. And that was the first thing I noticed when I did something like 4 sets of 15 in one day the first time. My whole lower back just felt tingly, and not in a bad way. It was just like this warm tingle, like I'd put a heat pad on there with a little bit of icy hot. And it was actually really relaxing. Like I almost wanted to pass out and take a nap, but I had some other business to sort. So anyone who's ever experienced any sort of low back strain or cramps, I think you'll notice that immediately. And I've even seen some other coaches I know say that really every single physical therapy place should have one of these. And that anybody over 40 absolutely needs to be doing this, particularly if you're going to train heavy. Having access to one of these shouldn't even be optional. And I would definitely say that too. If you still want to be strong and you're over age 40, you need to buy one of these. Even if you have no other equipment in your house, if you don't have one of these at your gym, it's worth making a corner for one to have in your home. Okay, you can get one of these for less than $500 if you shop around carefully. So it's worth it. It's worth it just for the therapeutic aspects. Then we come over to the strength training aspects. You can build your deadlift off that device, and that's something I'm using it for myself also. I feel like that and the good mornings are going to be pivotal for continuing to build my deadlift up, because I'm in the low 600s now, but I want to bring that up. That device is going to be perfect for it. And again, as soon as you go heavy on it, you'll understand. And when I say heavy, I mean we have to go heavy. Like I'm trying to get to something like 425 for sets of 25 reps. That's what I've actually been told by Clint Darden that I personally need to do for my specific goals. That is his direct recommendation to me. So the first time you go really heavy on it and you start really working the weight up to the point where you're hitting sets to failure at 15 plus reps with a heavy weight, in my case that was when I got past 300, you will notice your entire back, hamstrings, glutes, low back will light up the same way that they do off of a really heavy deficit deadlift. So it's working all the same musculature. The same muscles that you feel hurt after you fail a 1 rep max on something like a deficit deadlift, because again, it seems to be sometimes a little more painful afterwards. And I don't mean sharp pains, I mean just that dull ache through the muscles. You get the same thing off of this device. It really works the same muscles. You can build your deadlift off the reverse hyper if you're willing to treat it as a hypertrophy exercise instead of just a prehab exercise, right? Where you're using really light weight. Because look, guys, if you're doing 150 pounds on there, that is prehab. You're not going to get bigger and stronger off that. If you're a girl, you might. Like if you're a 110-pound woman, you might. But as a grown man, you're not going to get stronger off of that. You're just not. It's therapeutic. You've got to get really, really heavy on it. So in other words, even you guys who want to use it to help build even a 500 deadlift, which is not that big, you're not going to do that with 150 pounds. All right, you're going to need to work up past 300 pounds for high reps on there. So again, deadlift builder. And we come over to the Glute-ham device. This is the best hamstring exercise ever invented. And I hate to use the word best. I do hate that word best, because there is generally no best exercise, but this is hard to beat. Because what is it we always say? We need hip hinges for our hamstrings, but if you want complete hamstring development, we have to have knee flexion also. Okay, most hamstring exercises do not have adequate knee flexion. This is a knee flexion exercise that uses just a hair of hip hinge in it too. But because of that, we're moving the body through space. It's a very difficult exercise. We can fully hit all 3 heads of the hamstring. Okay, we can hit all 3 heads with this. Well, from an injury prevention perspective, that's phenomenal. Right? Track and field athletes need that. Anyone who's going to run, anyone who's going to jump, if you want to reduce your chances of everything from an ACL tear to tearing a hamstring, even tearing a hamstring when you miss a max deadlift, that is really your go-to device. It is the best hamstring builder. And I think good mornings and stuff are great for hamstrings. But the Glute-ham device, that is your top builder. And the benefits you have over even a hamstring machine, because I would say if you don't have access to one of those, you're going to need hamstring curls at some point, right? Because you're going to need the complete development of the hamstring. But in the case of the Glute-ham device, we have the option to change the strength curves. Okay, because you're stuck with a fixed curve when you're dealing with a standard hamstring curl machine. With this, we can adjust the pads, the distance from them. I'm at a fairly aggressive point there because my knees are up on the pads. Even when I'm at the top and I'm upright, my knees are still up on the pads. They're above the base of it. So we're getting relatively aggressive there, which is why I'm only doing body weight at 220. But as you get stronger on a device like this, the ability to add bands. Obviously, we can add plates, and that helps also. I mean, if you can get to where you can do your knees all up on the pads and start doing plates, unless you're very light, you've got pretty strong hamstrings. So that's also an option. But the fact that we can hook bands and things onto it to completely change the strength curve, to make it more dynamic, right? To get, again, an intense contraction at peak contraction at the top, because bands will do that. Again, possibly over speed eccentrics at certain points. Again, for very advanced lifters, you need to be careful with that. It brings us a lot of versatility for completely maximizing hamstring development. And we need massive, powerful hamstrings. If we want to both be strong and injury-free. Hamstring development cannot be neglected. It is one of the most critical things you can focus on. So really, these two devices bring a lot to the table for your squatting and deadlifting, but they bring a lot to the table in terms of injury prevention also, which is something that everyone who wants to be fit and athletic needs to pay attention to. And especially you older guys, we get hurt easier. We get hurt a lot easier if we're not careful. Right? These are injury prevention devices to protect your knees, protect you from hamstring tears, protect your back. This is the stuff that will keep you strong and fit and injury free for the rest of your life. Right? You guys all realistically need access to both of these. It's worth your effort if you can get access to them. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.